Welcome to this explainer. Today we're taking a step back from the exhausting daily news cycle to explore something deeply profound. We're going to be looking at a centuries-old framework, but not just as theology. We're looking at it as a fascinating, incredibly practical blueprint for human behavior. So I want you to think about this for a second. What is the very first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word Islam? For a lot of us, the associations are heavily visual, right? Or cultural. Maybe you picture the physical act of prayer, or maybe it's the Quran, the stunning architecture of a mosque, the fasting month of Ramadan, or just the millions of Muslims living all around the globe today. But beyond all those practices and beyond the demographics, there is another word that is fundamentally, inextricably connected to the Islamic message, and that word is peace. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the actual linguistic DNA of the word itself. The Arabic word Islam inherently means submission to God, yes, but it shares its exact root with the Arabic words for peace and safety. It's this core foundational idea that true safety and ultimate peace are actually achieved through that submission. But that really made me ask, what does that actually mean in practice? Is peace just the absence of war, or is it something much deeper, much more active? Let's dive into Section 1, Peace Begins Within, the inner relationship. Because to figure out what true peace really means, we absolutely have to start at the micro level. It turns out you can't just legislate peace from the top down. You fundamentally need peaceful individuals to make up that society, and that requires a massive paradigm shift. In most cultures, the common view of strength is entirely outward. It's physical power, it's dominance, it's the ability to overpower somebody else. But the Prophet Muhammad offered this brilliant, totally counterintuitive teaching. He taught that real strength, true power, is actually the profound ability to control yourself when you are furiously angry. It literally shifts the battlefield entirely from the outside world directly to the inside of your own mind. And here is exactly why that inner discipline matters so much. A society is just a collection of individuals, right? And inner chaos, it always bleeds outward. A person who can't control their anger is absolutely going to create conflict inside their own family. A person who can't control their greed will inevitably exploit other people. And someone who just refuses to forgive, they're going to carry a toxic hatred around for years. Think about how remarkably relevant this ancient teaching is today. We live in a modern world that is just driven by social media arguments, perpetual outrage, dropped Wi-Fi connections, and, let's be honest, terrible road rage. In an environment like ours, controlling your anger isn't just a nice little personal trait. It is the ultimate anchor. It is a profound form of real strength. Which brings us to Section 2, Mercy and Forgiveness, Interpersonal Relations. Once we've established the inner self, we have to zoom out slightly to the interpersonal level. Basically, how do we treat the people around us? Well, it relies on two massive pillars. Consider one of the most repeated descriptions of God in the Quran. Muslims begin countless everyday actions by saying this exact phrase, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Mercy is not presented here as some minor secondary quality. It is absolutely central to Islamic spirituality. In fact, the Quran describes the Prophet Muhammad himself as a mercy to the worlds. So this means that compassion isn't just a nice theory. It is supposed to directly dictate how you treat your parents, how you guide your children, how you interact with total strangers, and yes, even how you treat people who fiercely disagree with you. But humans are humans, and conflicts happen. It's a pattern we all know way too well. We've got step 1. One person hurts another, a disagreement sparks. Step 2, the second person retaliates, striking back. Then the first person responds again, and then step 3, escalation. Suddenly, what was just a minor disagreement has rapidly snowballed into a lifelong conflict. It's a heavy, deeply destructive chain reaction. So the crucial point is that forgiveness is literally the only mechanism that breaks that cycle of conflict. The Quran repeatedly praises those who forgive. And to be perfectly clear here, forgiveness in this context doesn't mean being naive or just pretending that an injustice never happened. It means making the active, incredibly difficult choice to refuse to let hatred control your heart. It's about stopping that snowball before it causes an absolute avalanche. Now let's zoom out even further to Section 3, Justice and Human Diversity. The macro level. Building from the individual up to the entire society, we quickly realize that peace without justice is a complete illusion. Imagine a society where everyone is commanded to just remain quiet. There's no visible conflict, but innocent people are secretly suffering. That might look like peace from a distance, but it is deeply, deeply broken. There is a profound mandate here. Stand firmly for justice, even when it goes against your own interests. Islam places a massive emphasis on justice. And this specific principle, it's designed to challenge absolutely everyone. Because let's face it, justice is really easy when it benefits us, right? It's easy to call for fairness when you're the victim. But the ultimate, defining test of character is when fairness requires us to stand up against our own tribe, our own interests, or to actually look in the mirror and admit that we ourselves are wrong. And that sense of justice naturally extends to how we view humanity as a whole. The Quran teaches that human beings were intentionally created as diverse peoples and nations. We're talking different languages, different cultures, different communities. What's amazing here is that human diversity isn't viewed as some biological accident without meaning. Instead, the teaching states that people were made into different nations and tribes specifically so that they may get to know one another. Think about how vital this concept is for modern, highly diverse societies like America, where millions of people from completely different backgrounds live right side by side. Human differences are meant to be an opportunity for understanding and connection, absolutely never a reason for hatred. Now, we do have to address the reality of a very complicated world. How does this framework deal with actual hostility? Well, the teachings emphasize responding to hostility with what is better whenever possible. But Islam also explicitly recognizes the right of individuals and communities to actually defend themselves against injustice. However, there is a strict ethical framework that places real limits on aggression. The balance is perfectly captured right here. Peace does not mean weakness, and strength does not require cruelty. A person or a whole community has to constantly balance being strong enough to stand for justice with being deeply compassionate. Let's transition to our final part. Section 4, a journey of transformation, everyday practical faith. So, what does this all mean for someone just waking up and going to work tomorrow morning? Well, it means that religious teachings aren't just an empty checklist. Prayer matters, fasting matters, charity matters, for sure. But according to the teachings, these rituals are entirely meant to transform your character. If the ritual of prayer does not make someone more disciplined, if fasting during Ramadan doesn't actively teach a person patience, if giving charity does not build genuine compassion in someone's heart, then something fundamental is missing. The ritual is literally failing its purpose if the person's character remains unchanged. And this brilliantly illustrates where true spirituality actually lives. It doesn't just live in a mosque, it lives in the mundane. The everyday tests of faith are totally ordinary moments. It is exactly how you treat your aging parents. It's the tone of voice you use when you're speaking to your spouse. It is how you behave in an empty room when absolutely nobody is watching you. It's the restraint you show when someone throws a nasty insult at you, and the integrity you maintain when conducting business. These totally ordinary day-to-day interactions, they are the actual measure of a person's faith. Ultimately, perhaps the absolute biggest misunderstanding about Islam is the idea that it is simply a rigid list of rules you have to follow. For Muslims, it is an active, ongoing, lifelong journey of personal transformation. It's this continuous effort to move from anger toward patience, from selfishness toward generosity, from carrying hatred toward offering genuine forgiveness. And ultimately, it is the journey of moving from inner chaos toward profound peace with God. In a world that so desperately needs peace on every single level, from our own minds to the global stage, perhaps our conversations shouldn't always begin with what separates us. Perhaps, as we reflect on these concepts of justice, mercy, and self-reflection, the conversation should begin with this exact question. What can we learn from one another about becoming better human beings? I'm going to leave you with that thought. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep seeking to understand the world around you.